Hello and welcome to this video, and on this video I'm going to be going through what I think are the 10 greatest concept albums of all times, and I'm going to rank them from 10 to 1. Okay, now when I say concept albums, I'm being very narrow. I'm on about albums that tell a story. Now I could put that on the title of this, the 10 greatest albums that tell a story. Right, so I'm not going to put Kind of Blue on here, which is all supposedly about a bunch of blues. I'm not going to put in the Wee Wee Hours by Frank Sinatra. I'm not going to put that on. I'm not going to put Variations by Andrew Lloyd Webber. These are all concept albums. I'm not going to put Tubular Bells on. I'm not going to put any of those albums on. Right, these are the best albums that tell a story. A movie for your ears, as Frank Zappa said. That's what you're going to hear. These are the 10 best albums that tell a story. So if you wanted to come along to find just the general concept albums, then it's not for you. So go away now. Right, I'll save you time. And also, for those of you who have complained about me waffling on, right, I am going to waffle on here. You could, if you watch it, all the videos this week refer to those people who goes, oh my God, he goes on a bit, or God, can you cut to the thing? All those people that do that, this is not for you. So you could sling your hook. If you don't want me talking, then what the hell are you here for? I have filmed a video for you, and it will be out. So you'll have to find, there's another video coming out this week in a couple of days, and especially for you that don't like me talking. I've done it for you. But on here, I am going to waffle. And a few people have been missing my ranting. So don't expect on this to get that much information about these albums. I have decided to do something else. You're going to get the list. I've done the work. I've put them in order, right? But whether you're going to get much about the albums, and this is deliberately to get on the nerves of those people who dare to complain in the comments about my channel. Who the hell do you think you are? Who the hell do you think you are coming here onto my channel and telling me that I talk too much? Right, who the hell do you think you are? Right? And there you are, you anal retentive prog fan, right? With all your albums in order, all your socks in order, and all your pants in order. You like everything done properly, don't you? And you're just obsessed with the list. You're just waiting there. So for me to go on a list, just so you get your fingers ready. Your fingers ready to type, you miss so-and-so. How could you make a list like this and not include The Wall by Pink Floyd, which I have included, right? How could you do that? You know nothing about this. You're a stupid idiot that deserves to be killed, right? It's absolutely awful. You call yourself an expert. What are you? Nothing at all. Nothing at all. You don't know anything at all. You shouldn't be even on YouTube. I should be on YouTube because my albums are in order. Your albums aren't even in order. Look, you pull these out here. Look, this is not in order. What's what we got here? King Crimson next to King Crimson, next to Mark Johnson bass designs, next to Billy Cobham, and then more. The King Crimsons are actually quite close together. They've merged. Steve Hillage, nothing to do with the King Crimson. White Snake, nothing to do with the King Crimson. Deep Purple, I know. You know I just did that because those anal retentive prog classic rock types. They were getting annoyed, and then I've just showed them some albums. They go, well, he's having a go at me. He's thinking, ooh, albums. What albums are going to be next? I've got to stop. I've got to say. He's not talking, he's just showing albums. Do you like it? Do you like it, little prog fans, classic rock fans? Do you want me to do it again? I'll pull something from here. Oh, why is he doing this? I don't want to watch it because he's criticising me. I've got this. Santana. Ooh, Shirley Bassey. Ooh, Yellow. Ooh, Santana. Ooh, some bloke with a violin. Ooh, Santana. They are sort of in order. Have you noticed? You know why? Because when I've done a ranking video of Santana, I've finished it. I've squadged them in. I've done King Crimson. I've squadged them in. Oh, what a great sound of all time! Look at that. This one is a rarity. I don't know if you can get this anymore. The sampler that came out of Frank Zappa. Zappa, the man from Utopia, and on that cover, that is here, that is a artistic representation of the gig that Zappa did in Palermo, I think, where there was rioting, and it put it on tour, off touring. This here is one of my records when I was making dance music. And he makes dance music. Oh, I don't like him anymore. I don't like dance music. I don't like rap. It's just all computers and they don't know what they're doing. Anyway, that's a track that I put out many years ago. Thin Lizzy. I love Thin Lizzy. Greatest hits, that's all you need. Don't need anything else. Jerry Boy, Jimmy Witherspoon, proper jazz album for people, for aficionados. I'm 5 minutes in, I haven't started on the list. When's he going to get to the list? I don't know. Why isn't he getting to the list? Wonder why. Because you dare to criticise it. I'm teaching you all a lesson. I'm teaching you a lesson here. Right? I'm teaching a lesson, and some person said, I've been missing your rants, Andy. I only come here for the rants. I thought, he's right. He's right, I've been doing too good a job. And they dare to say I'm waffling. I haven't been ranting on at all. Do you want to see ranting? You want to see waffling? You want to see what you're going to see on this video right now? That's what you're going to see. You're going to see some proper ranting. Some proper ranting. Shall I start on the list? Shall I? Or shall I keep going? I'm going to start on the list. So at number 10, by a band I'm not a big fan of, but I thought I should put it on to keep certain people happy, which is why I put it on. And I got Metropolis, Scenes from a Memory by Dream Theater. You know, so what we've got is a great big album that tells some story. It's probably some sort of dystopian science fiction story that no adult should really be, you know, immersing themselves in. But because progressive metal fans haven't grown up, because they're still impressed like a teenager with, you know, just hollow displays of virtuosity, they love this. And the fact that there's some dodgy science fiction story, and that Dream Theater made so much money, they managed to get some author to probably author a book of it, and they're probably going to make a film of it, and it seems all so special, you know. Then we have this, and of course Dream Theater do everything bigger and better than everybody else, so it's probably 18 hours long, you know, and they probably use 5 orchestras and all that type of stuff. That's what I have at number 10, Metropolis, Scenes from a Memory by Dream Theater. I thought I should put it on there. I did listen to it once. I have heard it many years ago. I sit down and listen. I didn't like it. How can you put it on your top 10? Like, you don't understand. You people have a go saying, they say to me, oh, this is all subjective. You don't realise sometimes I'll put something just on the list because I know people will go, how could you do a list without that? There's so many Dream Theater progressive metal fans out there. Dream bloody Theater. They're getting back together next year, aren't they? They've kicked the old Mike Mangini out. Kicked him out. Got Portnoy back. I wonder why. Maybe because their shows were half empty on the last tour. Maybe it's got something to do with that. I've messaged Jordan Rudess. I sent him an email. Do you want to come on my channel? He hasn't got back to me. He hasn't got back to me. I wanted him on the channel. I like Jordan. He's a funny guy. He's an incredible musician. All right. He's played with Jan Hammer and Tony Bloody Williams. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in there with his big white beard doing his fast arpeggios and bloody harmonic minor over Dream Theater. I'm not interested in that. I want to know about Jan Hammer. Right. He knows. He's a big ELP fan. I want to talk to him about Prog. I'm not interested in Dream Theater whatsoever. So, Jordan, if you are watching this, you've got to realise I'm not interested in Dream Theater whatsoever. I toured with Dream Theater back in 2009. I played on their UK tour. We opened up for them. I hung out with them. They put their arms around me. Right, I was their friend. I kept it a secret about the fact I'm not a big fan of the band. I kept it a secret from them. Sit there and say to Mike Putney, I don't really like Dream Theater. I didn't do it. Now, there's some bands out there that make progressive metal and they do some real brilliant stuff. And at number 9 I have Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. Or Queensryche. I never know which one it is. I'm not a huge progressive metal fan really, I've got to be honest. I think Operation Mindcrime, which was made in the late 80s, is where that progressive metal thing that was coming out of thrash metal when it was really exciting. I also really like Voivod. They're 2 great bands. And this, you know, the idea of a mind crime, the idea of a thought being criminal, right? That has got a lot of relevance now, which makes it seem a lot more grown up to me. Because progressive metal never seems that grown up. Right. At number 8, I did want to have a rant about Queensryche. I'm not going to have a rant about Queensryche. At number 8, I don't know whether I'll have a rant about this. It had to go on the list. I've got Thingfish by Frank Zappa. The triple disc musical theatre play in album form. And Zappa wrote this Thingfish thing. The idea that it would be performed, and it pokes fun at musical theatre. Now, I can't stick musical theatre, right? I'm not a big fan, and I cannot believe that musical theatre has gained more of a sort of hold over the youth. When I was a kid, people liked the Stranglers and the Clash, and they liked the Swans. This is what kids liked back then. They liked thrash metal, and now these kids, I teach these young people, they come in, they listen to musical theatre. Musical theatre's a big thing, and they have these films come out like The Greatest Showman, and they all love it. I love The Greatest Showman. I think it's great playing, great songwriting, great stuff. But musical theatre, it's a bit sad, isn't it? Really. I'm sure with some prog fans here that that's the worst thing about prog. Prog can verge in towards musical theatre, and of course when they're telling a story, that's what we get here, and that's why it all seems a little bit cheesy. That's why so many of them seem a bit dodgy. I think rock music moving towards musical theatre, you really get that like with Bohemian Rhapsody or Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. They're just ripe to be turned into musicals, and I think, well, of course, the Queen has, and I think the Bat Out of Hell has. Thingfish, right? There's no way this will ever get performed. It's got a Brechterian device in there, because not only is there this play, this musical theatre play going on the stage, which features these mammy nuns, and the mammy nuns have been made very much like the AIDS virus, and Zappa's poking fun at that. Again, this is a really, if you listen to this, it is so politically incorrect. The mammy nuns prod fun a sort of racial stereotype of a sort of the mammy, that lady that used to look after Tom and Jerry. Well, she really looked after Tom, didn't she? That's the mammy. And these mammy nuns are sort of they were created in a lab where they're trying to create a new virus that's going to kill everybody. And on top of that, we then have this couple who are watching from the audience, and they get pulled into all sorts of dodgy things. This is one of the most politically incorrect albums you will ever hear. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm not going to tell you some of the songs are on here, but it's very politically correct. On top of that, Zappa has pulled it together out of tunes off other albums in a lot of places. It is a botched job, and I've always felt that Thingfish, when I first heard it, I was a little bit let down, but as time's gone on, I appreciate the vision of Frank. I can see what he's trying to do, and actually if you look at the story and you see the things he's poking fun at, they deserve to have their fun poked at it. And it's a shame that now we don't have a Frank Zappa. Of course, if Frank Zappa was around now, he would have been cancelled a long time ago. All my progressive, politically correct friends don't like Frank Zappa. They don't like him. And they don't care what a musical genius is. They don't care all the brilliant things he's done. They just don't like him. But I felt that the world needs a Frank Zappa. You need someone that can prod at something like that and make it look so silly and pompous, which is what he did over and over again. So that's what I got at number 8, is Thingfish. At number 7, I have one of the biggest, cheesiest, cheesy things in the history of progressive rock. It is, of course, Journey to the Centre of the Earth by Rick Wakeman. Now, is Rick Wakeman serious, or is he taking the mick? Which one is it? Right? He jumps out of Yes. I mean, he goes back a few years later, but I think in 1973, he jumps out of Yes. And for some reason, of all the progressive rock musicians, especially in this country, Rick Wakeman is a very entertaining raconteur and was able, even back then, to sort of carve out a sort of cultural media presence. You know, he is known as a celebrity here in the UK. And with that, he goes off on albums that are deliberately over the top. You know, starting with Six Wives of Henry VIII. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff. With this one, he tells a story, and it is really in the idea of that classic storytelling musical form, which is personified by Peter and the Wolf by Prokofiev, with a narrator. I think was it David Hemmings was the original narrator on this album. Again, I've only heard this album once. I can't. Rick Wakeman, I don't know. You know, when I listen to a Rick Wakeman album, it's always a bit. There's not enough jazz there for me. There's not enough funk. You know, Keith Emerson, he can burn playing jazz. He can play like Jimmy Smith on the organ. You've got that thing. Rick Wakeman hasn't got that. There's not 1 ounce of blackness in Rick Wakeman whatsoever, and that's always coloured my opinion of Rick Wakeman. I have heard this album many years ago, but what I do appreciate is the fact that he got these projects and he got them up and going, and he put them on with a full choir, full orchestra, and he even had like when he did the King Arthur one, the Nights of King Arthur, he even had an ice rink with bloody people, ice skating around dressed as knights. I mean, you can't really knock a guy who does that. It's comedy. It's pure kitsch. It's camp, pompous, humorous stuff. And that's what I got at number 7, is Journey to the Centre of the Earth. It's a better album than Thingfish. Whether it's better than Operation Mindcrime, I don't know. I think that should probably be above Journey to the Centre of the Earth. Anyway, here's a contentious one. At number 6, I have Quadrophenia by The Who, which is... The Who sort of invent this, don't they? They invent the sort of album telling a story. And it's not prog. When The Who do it, it's a rock opera. I think Pete Townsend was really serious in what he wanted to explore. And here he sort of explores youth culture. He explores like drug taking. He explores the individual against the society and the individual against the crowd, and how young people find meaning in life and all that type of stuff. It's not mysterious and weird. It's a very down to earth story. It's brilliantly told. Quadrophenia is probably a better album than the album I've got above, because there's obviously Tommy isn't there by the Who, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. I think Quadrophenia, in terms of, I'm being serious now, I think in terms of telling a story, Quadrophenia is one of the finest achievements. Pete Townsend understood how to do this. He had a musical intelligence which I think went back to his dad, who was an arranger and composer, I think, and he was able to see the big picture. And I think on Quadrophenia, they absolutely hit it. And of course, when somebody does this great enough, it becomes a film. And this is a film, and it's a great film. So that's why I got number 6 is Quadrophenia. I was going to rant my way through this here. Do you want me to have a rant about The Who? I'll save it up to Tommy. Right, at number 5, I've got The Wall by Pink Floyd. Right, a good album. Side 1 and 2 are pretty good, not my thing. This is where Pink Floyd are moving away from what I love, which is the mad experimentation, towards a sort of Roger Waters view of moany, angry millionaire rock stuff, which I don't know, I'm not too sure about it, but people love The Who, don't they? They absolutely love it. They love this album. And I think that the fact this album gained so much cultural momentum, it has to be high up on this list. I think side 4, by the time you get to side 4, it's pretty meandery, and you've also got into sort of this weird world of Roger Waters complaining about being a millionaire rock star and how alienating it is at a time where here in the UK 1979 we were in quite a bad recession. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And I think that, I think with this album is, when I was 11 years old, this album came out. I can remember going into W.H. Smith's, and it was all over the place, and it was weird. There was just this album with like a black and white wall on, and then the single came out, And I can remember it went straight in at #1, and I can remember watching Top of the Pops, and this weird cartoon came out with these sort of totalitarian hammers walking down the road, and these kids singing "We Don't Need No Education," it's pure. That song is pure genius. And I think more than anything, it's that song that propels this into the public consciousness. But this really is the public consciousness. And of course, the great Alan Parker then came along and did a film version of it, which is pretty coherent. It holds together. I think the film's better than the album, but I put it on the list for you. It's there, But this really is the beginning of Pink Floyd really going up their own arse, and what we end up with bloody Pink Floyd, right? You've got the guys who own the name, Dave Gilmour and the rest, turning out this turgid, predictable dad rock, that only middle-aged men have a good job and a nice car, and they get home and they put their slippers on and they can put on a momentary lapse of reason and be wafted off into the wonderful, ethereal world of Dave Gilmour with his beautiful guitar playing. And he never overplays, does he? No, he never overplays, Dave Gilmour. He's not one of these fast guitarists. I mean, that's just showing off. There's no emotion there whatsoever, is it? Oh no, man. When you play fast, there's no emotion. No, there is there? No. I mean, it's like Dave Gilmour, he could just bend a string and put all that emotion into it. And it's got nothing to do that I don't have the musical ears and the mind to appreciate these weird scales and these wheel notes. I just want straight rock pentatonic with a nice tone and a nice ploddy drum beat. I don't want anyone showing off. I don't want anybody doing anything complex I have to follow. I just want to feel like I've got into a nice warm bath. A warm bath made out of David Gilmour. David Gilmour's lovely notes mixed up into a lovely stew, a lovely warm stew that I can lie back in after a long day selling houses, and trying to get people to, sign on the dotted line so I can sell their house and take some commission off it. I'll be doing all that day, and when I get home, I just want to put a bit of momentary lapse of reason on. And there we have, that's what Pink Floyd become, don't they? And then what's happened to Roger Waters? There he is, millionaire Roger Waters, ranting on like some, cardigan wearing pseudo-Marxist, that if there ever was a revolution here in the UK, Roger Waters would be the first one put up against the wall and shot, wouldn't he? First off, really, God, who does he think he is? Here he is, thinking he's got some sort of political agency, he's got so much money, and all the Pink Floyd fans have to stand there while he does his sort of Tom Waits versions of old Pink Floyd songs, stood there watching this huge spectacle as he mimes along, right, to these songs that were that were recorded 50 years ago. They stand there paying their massive ticket to make him money so he can tell you how the poor are oppressed all over the world by some awful authority. The Jews. I can remember once, because this video is just me ranting on for hours. That's what you've got here. Deliberately to get on the nerves, and I know this title's going to pull him in, but I'm just here, I'm just talking, I'm just waffling. About 20 years ago, I was playing with a blues guitarist called Ian Parker, and we did a tour of Germany opening up for the incredible blues guitarist Walter Trout. And Walter was a lovely guy, a virtuoso blues guitarist, and Walter Trout, and you won't get this from the Trout surname, is a Jew. Right, he's a Jewish man. He's Jewish. There's no two ways away. He is a Jewish man. Don't let the fish name. I mean, it's like if you ever want to become a blues musician, then a fish reference always goes down really well. And if you can get some sort of fishiness into your name, you've got it made. And Walter Trout. It's like you've got Eric Sardinus, and that sounds a little bit like sardines. That's good, but Walter Trout, right? Now, I'm not going to go anymore. If you want to put your fishy, there's Samantha Fish, isn't there? If you want to put your fishy blues musician down in the comments, if there's any more you can think of, I've thought of at least 30. There's so many. So Walter Trout, who is the king of the fishy blues name, virtuoso, Jewish blues guitarist, right? I'm on tour with Walter, and we're on this bus, and we're going through the Black Forest. It's very beautiful. And Walter walks up to the front, and there's this German guy driving along the bus. And he turns around to this guy and he goes, "This is lovely." And the German guy goes, "Oh yes, it's very good here. This is the Black Forest gâteaux are made here in the forest. So it's very German and this is all very lovely." He goes, "Oh, it is lovely." He said, "You know," he goes, "when I look out and I look around and, you know, this sort of neck of the woods, you know, literally." He goes, "There's something you just don't see." And the German guy goes, "Oh, what is this? What are you not seeing?" And he just turned around and went, "Jews." Moving on, we are now, what was I talking about then? It was, Roger Waters, and now he's an anti-Semite. Now, if you think, Andy's calling him an anti-Semite, I have, a video on here, a serious one, where I got a big Pink Floyd fan who lives in Israel, who is Jewish, and we really bigged up Roger Waters. You've got to understand, I might not be saying my opinion. I might be just saying stuff. I might just be rambling and ranting and saying stuff for comedy purposes or stirring the pot. I like to stir the pot, and I've just stirred the Pink Floyd pot, because Pink Floyd as a brand should be got rid of. Right? It's all rubbish. That Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon Redux thing, that he should never have done that. And Dave Gilmour and the people who own the name, you know, the only decent thing is Nick Mason with that Saucer Full of Secrets. That's all right. That's okay. That's all you have left. 80-year-old blokes churning it out, multi-millionaires. At number 4, I have Tommy by The Who. Now, Tommy is probably the greatest rock opera ever written, isn't it? It's an absolute classic. And unlike Quadrophenia, it's quite weird. Again, it sort of explores this Messiah figure, the same as The Wall. It's very interesting in these young rock musicians, or young at the time. They're very interested in exploring how bad it is to be seen as a Messiah figure. When I played with old Robert Plant, who's, you know, over my shoulder at the back, you know, I was in a band called the Priory of Zion. And no, I was in a band called the Priory of Brian, sorry, I'll remember this. And that was named after two things: the Priory of Zion, which is a very secret organisation that you can look up right now, and the Life of Brian. And I felt that Robert saw himself, that character in the Life of Brian that gets mistaken for Jesus Christ. I can see that Robert saw himself in that. Now I say that again, it's a joke. It's a joke. He didn't really. It's just a funny idea. "You're not the Messiah, it's just a naughty boy." Can you imagine Robert Plant's mom saying that to him? That's why I say this stuff. This video is a waste of time. It's just me talking to camera. Right, you get the list, you'll get the list, but I'm going to take a long time getting there and it's going to annoy people. So that's what I got at number 4, is Tommy by The Who. Now, here's a consternation for you. Is that good English? Right, I get this quite a lot. If I talk about Pink Floyd, I will get certain anal retentive prog fan goes, "How dare you call Pink Floyd a prog band? They're not a prog band. They don't have the virtuosity of a prog band. They're just adequate players. That's not what makes prog." I think prog is made by people who are virtuoso musicians playing difficult material like ELP. Each of those are an absolute virtuoso. Carl Palmer with his shirt off, ringing the bell with his teeth and all that lot. And Greg Lake sat on his expensive carpet. And Keith Emerson with his knife stabbing. He's stabbing the keyboard as he stabs it. Nobody in Pink Floyd stabs the keyboard because they don't have the technical ability. If Richard Wright was to have stabbed his keyboard, he would have probably then lost his way because he wasn't the same level of musicianship. You know, so I get that going on, that Pink Floyd is not a prog band. I've even been told Rush are not a prog band. But on this other side of it, all those people that will open their arms to the whole world and just let everybody in, you know, all those people that want all the illegal asylum seekers to come into the country, all those people that just love everybody and want everyone joining the big party, they want The Who to be called a progressive rock band. Now, Pink Floyd are prog. I'm not having The Who as a progressive rock band. No, where they're not. They're a rock band. They're not progressive. They write great long songs with stories. They do that, but it's not. Are they prog? I don't know. I don't know. The Who. The Who are the most bizarre band in rock history. Right? You basically got, on drums, a lunatic with no hi-hats, just playing all over the song, chaotically. Right? the most chaotic and uncontrolled drumming, but it all seems to fit. Now you could say, well, it fits because you've got a bass player there who's holding it down, but he's not John Entwistle, the genius of electric bass. He's not holding it down. He's all over the place. You have a rhythm section that is all over the place. And then Pete Townsend, maybe he's going to hold it down. No, he's going to wimble his hands around, just putting in these great big slash chords. Big bang, while Roger Daltrey spins his microphone round on a stand like this, screaming and shouting. It's full on and it shouldn't work. This is an example of a band that were formed in the early 60s and there's a chemistry there and it cannot be explained, and that's what you have with The Who. An incredible band, and I do love them. I've grown to appreciate them. Tommy, for me, is their high point. After that, when they get, you know, sort of live at Leeds, and then you get like Who's Next and Quadrophenia. That's not The Who I like. I like the 60s Who, which I know Quadrophenia. I can be objective enough to know Quadrophenia is a better album, and it's a better told story than Tommy, which is a bit all over the place. But, you know, Tommy. And then that film, Ken Russell's film, it's absolutely incredible. You know, with Tina Turner, you know, and, you know, Eric Clapton and Elton John. I mean, and they got all these people doing cover versions of the songs. And you still love it. You love the originals, but you love those versions. Oh, just Tommy's great. Tommy's great. So what have I got at number 3? At number 3, and this is a bit more my personal choice, probably the most weirdest storytelling album in history, I've got Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. Now, I've got to be honest, this is probably about the 7th time I have had to talk about Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. Genesis are one of those bands that brings them in. If I'm doing something on Genesis, they're all here. People love Genesis. They are, you know, They love Genesis. It's like the Genesis fans, Peter Gabriel Genesis fans, they're hardcore fans. They love that band. I know that because I used to play with IQ, and those guys, you know, Pete, the lead singer of IQ, is an insane Genesis fan. Could you tell? And so if you do anything on Genesis, they'll be here. And those fans have sat there going, I wonder when they're going to put Lamb Lies Down. If I didn't put it on, they would get annoyed. But by the same token, Lamb Lies Down is not the album they like because it's like an anomaly. Right? So, Genesis is not defined by Peter Gabriel being there or not there. Even though I've done a video, but that video was comedy. I did a video where I compared the Phil Collins Genesis to the Peter Gabriel Genesis. And I did it just to get on their nerves. But that's not where the line lies, is it? The line lies with Steve Hackett. There's Steve Hackett Genesis and then no Steve Hackett Genesis. And when Steve Hackett is there, they plough this sort of ethereal English quirky strangeness. And all those albums right up until Wind and Wuthering are fantastic albums. And Trick of the Tail is probably their best album without Peter Gabriel. Then after that, Phil Collins takes over. Before you know it, it's The Invisible Touch and, you know, Jesus Loves You and all that stuff, and selling about 80 million albums and being massive pop successes, you know, and walking around with suits on with these sleeves pushed up, you know, all that thing and all that bit that Genesis turns into, which is an anathema to your average progressive rock fan. And then in that discography, we have an anomaly, Lamb Lies Down, but we have another anomaly, which is the first album as well. The Jonathan King produced first album, where Jonathan King had wandered down to their posh private school with all those little boys there, and he'd find some pretty little boys out of that school, and he'd signed them and tried to turn them into a pop band, but it didn't work. For those lads, probably a good thing. Anyway, but there's another anomaly, and that is Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. And what you see is Peter Gabriel's taken over. Now, he's probably taken over because there's obviously something going on in the band at that time. He's got this idea, and he sort of manages to shelve everybody, and he completely writes this album. And he's got this storyline, he's got all sorts of stuff happening in his personal life with he just had a child, and all this stuff's going on. But for me, what's interesting is this is like a musical theatre piece, but it's like an American musical theatre piece. It's like a Fred Astaire film. You know, it's like Top Hat, but it's like Top Hat mixed with Pilgrim's Progress or Dante's Inferno or maybe Alice in Wonderland. It's got that thing in there, or channeled through progressive rock with an underlying American influence, and it's a British take on America. In the same way that Led Zeppelin is a British take on American music, or Cream is a British take. Then Peter Gabriel, you would suddenly realise on this album that his voice is drawing from soul singers, it's drawing from James Brown, it's drawing from Otis Redding, and that is all on this album. And really, I as I'm saying this to you, although I sometimes rank this album down low, when I say it like that, I go, now this is the great album. This is the great album here. This is the album that broke the band. This is the album that ejected Peter Gabriel and eventually ejected Steve Hackett, who wanted to carry on, you know, making big prog albums and didn't want to make pop music, although in the early 80s he did have an attempt to make pop music, and it was abysmal. And he should have learned. He should have looked at that and gone, you know, well, I Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford, and they know how to write a song. I don't. Good guitarist though. At number 2, I have, and this is a brilliant album. At number 2, I've got Joe's Garage by Frank Zappa, which originally came out as a single album followed up by a double album, and now you get it as a sort of 3-album box set. It's an absolute epic that tells a story of censorship and Frank's worry that the freedom of speech and freedom of expression that exists in rock and roll would eventually get taken over by this sort of totalitarian, you know, sort of 1984 elite. Of course, that's not happened. You know, why was he worried about that? And so it tells the story of Joe, who forms a band in his garage, and this band goes out and they get on tour, and it tells stories of all sorts of things. And the first album is got quite a linear story, which is quite relatively normal for Frank, which is sort of that Star is Born type of story. But then he eventually gets sent to prison, where I think he has sex with the prisoners and a robot, and it goes all strange, and he ends up as a sort of mindless automaton on sort of production line. I'm trying to explain the story. Do I really have to? It's incredibly well done. Zappa can do this with his eyes shut because he has that vision that Pete Townsend has, even more so. He can see the big picture. He's got some of the most incredible musicians on this album. Vinnie Colaiuta is off the scale. Keep It Greasy has some of the most incredible drumming ever recorded. It's a virtuoso album. It's brilliantly produced. It's incredible guitar solos. Watermelon and Easter Hay, which is the big sort of lament guitar solo, proves that Zappa wasn't just weird mathematical, you know, statistically dense music. He could also touch your heart, and he does on that. It's a fantastic album. That's what I got at number 2. And at number 1, the greatest album that tells a story of all time. You know what it is. You know what it is. It's War of the Worlds by Jeff Wayne, also known as Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. It's just a fantastic album. It's prog meets disco, you know, and tells a story of H.G. Wells. And I had this album in 1978 when I was 10 years old. My mum and dad got it. It sold something like 12 million copies here in the UK. One of the biggest albums. When everyone was saying punk had destroyed prog, punk's destroyed prog, then what you get is suddenly in the charts you've got Sky, John Williams, you've got Variations, Andrew Lloyd Webber. You know, Yes have come back, we going for the one. Pink Floyd are bringing the wall out. 1978 was the year of prog. Prog was killing it, and Jeff Wayne's War of the World is at the peak of that. It's at the top. This is one of the greatest albums ever made. It's brilliant. It's all brilliant. It's got all these famous. It's got bloody Richard Burton on it. Richard Burton. How prog is having Richard Burton on your album? You got Phil Lynott on there. You know, Justin Hayward comes in and sings that song Forever Autumn. It goes in the charts. Beautiful song. You know, like you've got like the alien is personified by some guy. I think Joe Partridge is it, and it's his guitar sound, and you got that ooh la, and it's just amazing. And at 10 years old, I can remember my dad bought that and he put it on. We sit down and it unfolding in front of us with this story, and the story was in your head. right? And the tension when those guys go down to that common, that heath, and there's a UFO down there, and you hear the door opening and the alien comes out. And in a film, the alien, doesn't matter what the alien looks like, he's going to let you down. But not with Jeff Wayne's War in the World, because what I had in my head was frightening. And the red weed, and that little booklet. Wait, have I got it here? Oh, I really want to hold it now. I absolutely love War of the Worlds. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for War of the Worlds. And I know a lot of you wouldn't either. The chances of me being able to find it, you can't talk to them with your back turned, Andy. That's not good YouTube stuff. I'm never going to. I just was hoping that I could just turn around and glance and see. This never happens, does it? Never happens. Oh, can't find it. And then I see other albums and go, oh, I didn't think about that. You know, I forget stuff anyway. War of the Worlds, yeah. Good album. I want to find it now. I might have lost it. You know, on this video, I'm doing all the stuff that gets on certain people's nerves. Do you know that? I'm deliberately doing it. I'm now talking to you with my back to the camera whilst trying to find a record that I should have pulled out but couldn't be asked. And you're looking at it and they go, he does not care, does he? This guy, I cannot believe it. You know, I'm goading them. I'm goading those people who dared to put negative comments on my channel last week. Last week I put a video out and it was called the 10 most important albums in history. Right, and at the moment it's on around about 60,000 views. It just rocketed and it brought new people in. And when you bring new people in, there's people that come here and they don't get what I'm doing. They just don't understand what's going on here. Right, when I started doing this channel, I was just, you know, being sensible and pulling out albums and talking about them and trying to impart information. And as the channel went on, right, my actual real personality came out, which is a mixture of insanity and grumpy old man, and that's what you get on here. And the more I've done it, the more people like it, and they're the people who come here. And I know there's people who come here and they come here for this, what I'm doing right now. Now I know, in terms of this list, I've done the list, I've gone through it. Do you want me to finish? I can finish up in a minute. So these are my 10 greatest concept albums ranked. Metropolis Scenes of a Memory by Dream Theater, Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche, Thingfish by Frank Zappa, Journey to the Centre of the Earth by Rick Wakeman, Quadrophenia by The Who, The Wall by Pink Floyd, Tommy by The Who, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis, Joe's Garage by Frank Zappa, and Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. Now, those are my 10. Now, I'm sure there's other albums that they have to tell a story. Now, if you could tell me some other, because I've got to be honest, there wasn't that many. Right, there's songs that tell us, or 2112 tells a story, but not the whole album. It's got to be the whole album, beginning to end, right? And I'm sure there's other ones. There's that Lord of the Rings by that Bo Hansen album. But that's just music. It doesn't tell the story of Lord of the Rings. It's just some weird prog album that's gained some, traction because it's got the name Lord of the Rings on. And the amount of Lord of the Rings fans I have met, hardcore Lord of the Rings fans, that aren't prog fans, have got that album. And that's why it's managed to grab it. If it wasn't that. And everyone mentions it. And when I do the 10 greatest prog albums of all time, they mention that Lord of the Rings album. And I know it. My mate had it. It's no good. It's rubbish. Right? It's just because it's got Lord of the Rings on. That's the only reason you like it. Right? That's the Tory prog fans. You know what they like. They're so predictable. Right? They're part nerd. Right, this is the mixture for your classic prog fan. Part nerd. You have to have that. So those are people that, maybe they work in IT and they work with computers and they have a sort of anal retentiveness that borders on Asperger's autism. They've got to have that. Things have to be in a certain place. These are the ones that can't stand. When they find out my albums aren't in order behind, they have a heart attack. They come. They're part nerd, part sort of, anal retard as well. You got to have a bit of that in there. Then you got to be middle-aged, right? You got to be middle-aged now. Now, in the old days when people were listening to Genesis and Yes, they were just putting that album on and getting stoned with their friends, weren't they, right? And having this experience. And then they all grew up and they moved on to Dire Straits, right? But hardcore prog fans, they still love it. So it's that sort of they're holding on to their youth. You know, they want that experience that they once had when they first went and saw Marillion when they were like 20 years old. They're trying to get that experience back. Although why you'd want to get that experience back, I don't know. So you have that sort of nostalgia, middle age, and of course the next thing is you have to be a bloke, right? You have to be a man. Okay, that's it, right? Do you want to know the percentage of males and females that watch this channel? I'll tell you, right? It was 97%. It's gone down to 96% now. Now I'm sure that 4% is mainly probably middle-aged men who don't want to have a YouTube account, who are logging in through their wife's YouTube account. Right, I'm sure that's what it is, but say it's not, right? Say these actual women who are watching it, right? I noticed, I did a video where I talked about cats and dogs, and I think that's how I got the extra %, you know. And I do want to bring the female audience into this. Of course I do. I don't know if we've been watching by a bunch of old bloody blokes. It'd be nice to have some ladies watching it as well. So I might do some videos on embroidery, or maybe kittens or cakes. You know, I might do some videos on that, and I might cover some sort of more handsome men. You know, because you know, waffling on about you know, these prog types, Rick Wakeman and all these people. I don't think that's pulling the women in, so I might cover something that older women like a little bit more. I don't know what sort of men older women like. I imagine it's people like Richard Madeley. Everyone who's not the UK is going, what is he talking about? But that's what a prog fan is. So we have a nerdy, anal retentive, middle-aged, nostalgic man who's a bit too fat. How do I know that? Because I played in progressive rock bands. And when you play in progressive rock bands, you want to make some money out of these people, so you make a t-shirt, don't you? So you have to order your t-shirts. Right? Now if you're in a proper prog band, you know what you're doing. There's only one size you get, and that's XXL. Because they're the ones that are going to sell. That's it. That's what we're dealing with on this channel. Right? I'm that, you're that. We're all that. Always remember that. That's what I'm catering for. Right? But as long as as well as having a very strong interest in music and love of the stuff and wanting to come here because you enjoy people talking about it, you've also got to have a laugh at yourself as well. Right? And I find that a lot of progressive rock bands, often there's a silly sense of humour in Gong, there's a silly sense of humour in ELP, and I think that's a wonderful thing. Anyway, that was my top 10 greatest concept albums ranked video. Right? It wasn't really that. It was here for the people who like me to rant. Now, I've tried my best to rant. A rant was always best when it just happens without me knowing. But I can summon the rant if I need to, and I have tried to here. And there's a couple of moments where I felt I managed to get on the wave, surf the wave of the Edwards rant a couple of times, you know. Anyway, still I haven't reached the emotional climax required, but I'm giving up now. We're coming up to the hour. If you like this video, like it. If you want to see more, subscribe. If you want to come and support me on Patreon, there's a link down below to my Patreon. And if you want to not support me on Patreon, but still support me financially, which I appreciate very much, there's a link to my PayPal tip jar. Thanks for watching this absolute load of nonsense, and I'll see you on the next one.
critique, a sort of totalitarian state where people aren't allowed to say anything. And if they do say anything, it's treated as though it's their opinion, and it's hard facts, and their opinions are wrong objectively, and they should be castigated and cast out for having such an opinion, right? And I really don't like that. And I do try and undermine that here with what I'm doing. A little bit. So in this series, really, oh, I think you're just talking now, Andy. You're doing everything that you know that a certain type of person doesn't like. That's what you're doing, aren't you? That's what you're doing right now. I know exactly what I'm doing, right? And it's actually quite hard to do these videos. To come in, I'll probably just talk. But here I relaxed a bit, and I haven't got much of the end today, to be honest.